morning, friend. Welcome back to Simply a Breeze. My name is Bree if you are new here. It is 7:30 in the morning. We are going out into the garden to get some garden maintenance done. I've been putting this off for a while, and mostly because we've just been busy. I haven't had the time to get out into the garden and get this done, but our tomatoes need to be pruned. They need to be shaped a little bit. Some of the leaves are really close to the ground, so I would like to fix that. We also have to tie up the tomatoes. Some of them are going to be supported by stakes, so they're starting to flop, so we need to give them some support so they're not flopping over. And then we're going to harvest some kale today. I have a goal to make a couple of recipes this weekend with some kale, so we need to harvest our kale, and then we're going to go through and see what other maintenance needs to be done. Also, we're going to go ahead and get some beans. More beans planted. The bean germination was a little rough. I'm also suffering from grasshoppers. I have some neem oil, so I may go ahead and apply some of that, see if that deters them at all. But they're eating all of the little sprouts of my new green beans. And so all of those green beans that we planted together, not even half of them have germinated and successfully grown. So we're gonna try again. We're gonna get some more in the ground. I've already been up and out this morning. I had to do some weeding in my iris bed. It was a good slow morning, but now it's time to get some more work done. Okay, so we have tomatoes along this trellis. Some of them, these are vining tomatoes, so some of them have already split off. I'm just gonna go ahead and get some of the leaves that are touching the ground. I'm gonna get those pruned up, and some of them are shading out our basil, and so we're going to clip some of those as well, and then we'll see if we can get some of the vines for the tomatoes to weave, or if we need to support them with some twine. So what I am doing here is trying to make sure, one, leaves are not touching the soil. That will promote disease, especially when it's raining and soil splashes up, and it can cause mildew issues and just other diseases. I have had it before. So that is part of the reason we are pruning. The other reason we are pruning is because we want to allow airflow. The thing with tomatoes are super susceptible to disease, and my tomatoes always catch a disease by the end of the year. And so pruning allows for that airflow to help keep any moisture from being trapped, which would cause the tomato to catch a disease. And that is incredibly important, especially for these vining tomatoes, because they'll just kind of flop everywhere. They send off like the suckers, and it's when the plant branches off, and then between the main stalk and the branch grows another branch in between those two. I'll give you a better close-up here in a little bit, but with the determinate tomatoes, I try to prune some of those just to keep the chaos down a little bit. This year I tried to reduce how much pruning of the suckers I did, because I would like all of these tomatoes to be as productive as possible, and if you prune those suckers, it technically could impact the amount of tomatoes that I get. So I'm gonna let some of the suckers go this year, and we will see what kind of yields we get. So I am not using tomato cages for all of these tomatoes, and the vining tomatoes especially, they don't do super well in the cages unless you get an incredibly tall tomato cage. Just because of how tall they grow, they will continue to grow until frost hits or they're taken over by disease, is how indeterminate tomatoes life cycle works, is they will just keep reaching and keep reaching. So that is also why I put them up against a trellis. So what I needed to do here was go ahead and support these vines that are going off, because not all of them will fit along in the weave of the trellis. So I am putting some twine just to help give these tomatoes some extra support. So these are all Romas and they're looking fantastic, but this one needs some support. He's definitely bushing out. He's kind of shading out this sugarish peach pepper. So we're gonna see what support we can give him. So I'm gonna take this. And the thing with Romas is these are a determinate variety, which means that they're only going to grow so tall. They're going to put all their fruit on pretty much at once. So you don't want to prune them a whole lot. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and get the stuff that's touching the ground off to help prevent disease. Friends, we have our first Roma tomato. Do you see that? Ah, that's so exciting. Oh, that's so awesome. So like this variety is gonna need to be supported. So I'm gonna take this. We got a vine over here on the ground. We just don't want that. This might be a San Marzano, not a Roma, now that I'm looking at it. I tried to make all of this Romas, but that may not have been how that played out. So any low hanging branches, we're taking them. You too, actually. There's a weed, so it's a good thing we're in here because there's also weeds in here that we can pull while we're working. All right, let's take a look. Grab you. So now let's go get some twine and we'll try and support this because this is growing on a stick. All right, so I got another support stick. Let's get this in here. Okay. I grabbed, we got some twine. Find the end. Yep. So like this guy's gonna need some serious support. Just get this undone real quick. Perfect. So most of these tomatoes in this garden bed are determinate tomatoes, which is why some of them have cages and some of them just have poles to support them, because determinate tomatoes will only grow so much and they will generally put on most of their fruit at one time. With that, because that is the way that determinate tomatoes work, you want to be cautious with over pruning them because you want the plant to produce as much as possible, which means it needs to put on as much branches as possible so it can flower as much as possible to get a really good harvest. So my main goal with pruning this bed was to go ahead and get all of the leaves that are touching the ground or leaves that were interfering with some other plants like our sugar rush peach peppers and some of our basil getting sun. And other than that, I very much tried not to over prune the Roma bed because I want the Romas to be as productive as they can. Friends, this is good news. It was looking really rough there for a little bit with our tomatoes. Like these ones just look so stunted. Those ones on that side look really, really good. But these ones there for a little bit look really stunted. They are looking better, so I'm going to go ahead and fertilize them again today, and hopefully that helps them out. So there's not a whole lot of pruning that I need to do to most of these. I'll prune the ones over there, they definitely need it. And then we can plant our green beans and we can harvest basil. We have more tomatoes over here. Nippers. Perfect. gone. The next thing on our list is to get bugs off of our kohlrabi because the bugs really like them. These little caterpillars are gonna go in to our soapy water, or I crush them in the process of putting them in the soapy water. Both happen, both work. And there's little these little white things right here. I just crush those, whatever they are. And then lastly, we're gonna harvest some basil. There's an earwig, so we'll try and get him off. Okay. Perfect. Got a ladybug here. I planted so much basil this year and I am so excited. This basil harvest is awesome. And I plan on making some fresh homemade pesto with the Genevieve basil. I'm actually going to freeze dry the rest of the basil. My goal is to go ahead and make sure I grow a year's worth of basil for us to use until the next garden season. Herbs are one of those crops that are pretty easy to grow a year's worth in a rather small space, especially right now it's just Reed and I, so that's all we have to feed. So a year's worth of basil is not too terribly hard to achieve, and I was able to intersperse all of our basil throughout the entire garden, and so that is awesome. The companion planting seems to be working pretty well. Today we are tackling something, one, I've been putting off for far too long, two, something that I don't enjoy doing, but if I do this, it will prevent problems next year, and that is cleaning all of our seed starting stuff and the fact that we need to get it all organized. I have acquired some new seed starting things from my in-laws. They came to visit like about a month ago now, and so they came to visit and they brought me some more seed starting stuff, which is really cool and super exciting. So we now need to get all of that stuff organized because at this point we are done starting seeds indoors. The most we will be starting is more seeds outdoors, and it'll be things like radishes, lettuce, spinach, and maybe a few more flowers. I don't know. So we have those things that we want to get started, but all of that is a direct sow. It's going to be planted in the ground. And so let's go ahead and get all of our seed starting stuff organized. I usually wait until almost the end of the season to do this, and by that point I am incredibly overwhelmed. We don't need to be overwhelmed. We're gonna have enough going on in the fall. I have learned my lesson. We're gonna try not to repeat it. So I have time today. It is a beautiful hot day, so I'm going to work under our tree. We have a huge shaded tree, and I am going to go ahead and get all of our stuff cleaned underneath there, and then I will go ahead and lay it all out in the sun to dry, and then we can pack it all away. So in previous years, the last 2 years that I've actually started seeds indoors, I usually wait until much closer to the end of the season to get all of this seed starting stuff organized and even cleaned. The first year I started my own seeds. I actually didn't clean any of my seed cells, and that's kind of a big no-no because you cleaning everything helps to prevent any disease for your seedlings later on. So this was a big ask for me this weekend. I actually had to wait until the afternoon once the heat was starting to die down again. I think it was like 4 or 5 p.m. by the time I decided to start this because it was just so hot. But those really hot days actually make it really easy to go ahead and let all of this stuff dry. I didn't have to do this inside and clog up my sink with any rocks or any dirt. Some of my seed cells are probably dishwasher safe, but again, I didn't want to put all that gunk into our pipes. So I figured we'll just go ahead and we'll wash everything outside. We'll give everything a good scrub. Nothing was cleaned perfectly, but I tried to get the most of the debris and the dirt and any leftover organic material cleaned on up off of all of our seed starting stuff. This is 100% a labor intensive day. It's not necessarily because it's hard, but with how many seeds I started, I had a lot of stuff that needed to be cleaned. And maybe if I was smart, I would have done it in increments, but I just was on a mission and I wanted to get it all done because I didn't want to have to do this again. So I finally decided to fill up my big tote with soapy water, and that was truly a game changer over working in that really small tub. And I brought out a toilet brush that I use as a bottle brush inside, and a scrubby. And I went ahead and just scrubbed everything out, and I'm throwing everything in the rocks because I didn't want to kill our grass. Our grass is looking pretty good, so I tried not to over soap the grass. And so everything's going in the rocks, and then I hose everything down in the rocks, and then I throw it all in the sun for it to dry. And this year, I officially only have 2 humidity domes left of all of my seed starting trays. I only have 2 left, so I'm either going to replace them or I may just use saran wrap. That tends to work pretty nicely. It's just not sustainable or reusable. I can use one piece of saran wrap throughout the entire seed starting season. However, it's not as reusable as an actual dome lid, so I may replace some of the dome lids I broke, especially because I've bought new trays anyways, so I need to get dome lids that will fit with those as well. But it felt so good to get all of this done and to get everything organized. I didn't organize everything last year, so I actually went into the gardening season not fully knowing what I still needed, and lo and behold, I actually ran out of trays and I didn't realize I didn't have enough trays. So this is great for getting you prepared for the next season. Everything is clean. You don't have to worry about cleaning everything. You can also take inventory of what you have and what you don't have and what you need to replace. And you can get everything organized that way when it's time for the next growing season. You know where everything is and you are more prepared to take on the next growing season. As much as I didn't want to do this, I am truly grateful for my efforts, and I know my future self is going to greatly appreciate all of the work that I have done.
So this can all go in the basement now. It's organized, it's put together. I have a lid for this. This may have to go in here. There we go. But now all the seed starting stuff is cleaned and organized for next growing season, which feels really, really good. I'm happy we got this done. So, I will see you all the next time we are in the garden or we're cooking up something good.